I just pressed the Let's Go Live button and I'm not even plugged in yet. Well, let's make sure it's working. It sounds like I can hear myself. That's good news. We pressed the button. Let's let the tubes do the tube thing and connect themselves so that we can begin our beautiful conversation that we're about to have here today. It looks like YouTube's alive. We've got Rumble, which is booting up. We got our friends over on Locals is fired up. That's tremendous news. That means that we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Donald Trump's motion to compel. We're talking about Kari Lake, and we're talking about J6. We got a full show that is coming up. And so we're going to start off the day by going over to Florida and seeing what's happening down there in the classified documents case, because there's a lot of back and forth on this today. You can see we've got these handful of motions. Look at all these things that we're about to go through. We'll go through them quickly, but there's a back and forth about sealing and unsealing and redactions and ex parte filings and all this back and forth. And now the media also wants to see what is inside. And so they submitted a request to unseal all this stuff. Trump responded to them. Jack Smith wants a lot of it to continue to be sealed. But the big meat and potatoes of the day is the actual motion to compel. And so we're going to go through this. A lot of it is redacted. There's a bunch of black text that we'll read through. But it's just expanding the defense's claim here from Donald Trump that they need access to more discovery. They need to see what the government has in their possession. Currently, the government has said, well, our prosecutorial team is very small. It's just like 5 of us, you know, a couple people at the DOJ and the special counsel's office, a couple of FBI agents. That's all you get. But Trump says, no. We need everything. We need stuff from NARA. We know you were working with the White House counsel. We know Homeland was involved with this. We think the CIA was involved with this. Okay, so all of it, they say, is fair game. And they submitted a motion to compel. In other words, asking the judge to order Jack Smith to give these materials over. And so we'll see what's inside. It's a fun motion. Then we're going to hear from Kamala. Oh, gosh, I know. She came out and said, we would never target Donald Trump, and the courts are going to just handle all this stuff in due course. So we'll listen to her and see what she has to say. Then, in our second segment, Representative Thomas Massie dropped a very nice X thread today. Been a lot of conversations about this pipe bomb and this pipe bomber. You know, this photograph, they still can't find this guy. They can track down everybody else, but not this guy. And apparently this is a former FBI agent. You know him. We've played clips from him here before. Stephen D'Antonio. He's a former assistant director with the FBI, and he was interviewed by Congress. He came in for a deposition, and Thomas Massie did a very nice job and articulated what we can learn from that interview as it relates to the pipe bomber. So we'll go through that and see what Thomas Massie shares with us. We've got some transcripts to read. We got some congressional videos to review. All of that coming up in our second segment. And then, man, the big story of the day, holy moly, Kari Lake and this bribery allegation that is floating around. In fact, right before the show started, fresh out of the oven, you may have already listened to some of this audio. I've got the full 10 minutes. There's this 5-minute version that's floating around that I have listened to, but I have not listened to the full 10 minutes. So we'll do that together here today. And then we'll see that the actual person on the other end of that recording, his name is Jeff DeWitt, this guy right here, he has resigned. He said, okay, I'm out of here. Says that Kari Lake was basically threatening him with more recordings, which you can, be the judge of that, but saying he's just going to resign for the good of the party and he didn't do anything wrong and this wasn't really bribery. This is just politics as usual. And so we'll take a look at the statute from Arizona to ask ourselves whether or not this actually is bribery under Arizona law, because presumably they were in Arizona at Kari Lake's house. And so we'll see what the law says about it and whether this is a criminal charge and really, whether anybody cares about that. I don't know that people want this guy to be prosecuted. I think we just want to know who's pulling the strings in the Arizona GOP, who's calling from back east and saying, no Kari Lake. And if people are taking orders, we want to know who those people are. So we're going to go through that. It's the full 10-minute audio that we'll listen to. We'll go through it together. and see what you guys say about it. But as you can see, we've got a lot to get to today. 3 full segments, and we're excited to get into them. Yesterday, we had a beautiful stream with Garrett Ziegler. If you missed that, we had a great conversation talking about all the Biden criminality. We had 2 different transcripts we read through. Kevin Morris, which was Hunter Biden's lawyer, and we also talked through George S. Burgess, yes, the gallerist. So all that was with Garrett Ziegler. And of course, we do members-only streams in the morning. This morning, we had a great members-only stream talking about Donald Trump's victory in New Hampshire. Very easy victory for him. We talked about what a sore loser Nikki Haley is, and really what a loser she is in general, because she keeps losing and declaring that she's a victor. But, you know, what can you do? That's what happens when you are a little bit off the rocker. So we talked about that. We debrief what's going on with Biden and a lot. We have a lot of fun. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where you can go and join us. And of course, we've got our website. So if you want to read any of the PDFs that we're about to go through, then you can get them at robertgovea.com. You can also sign up for our daily newsletter there. You can also get a hat or a shirt from the shop. It's a great way to support our work, and it's a great way to look as stylish as ever. robertgovea.com. Grab the PDFs and sign up for the newsletter. Now, before we get into it, my friends, we got to say hello to our friends at Field of Greens, because we are now, as you know, well over 3 weeks into 2024. My goodness. And, you know, a lot of people have a lot of resolutions when they start the year. One of them is often resolving to eat healthier. Now, always that's easy to resolve to eat healthier, but actually doing it, not so easy. Unfortunately, it's hard to stick to those plans. But we know that better nutrition is a key to our health and our longevity. And a healthy diet could even help you avoid health risks that run in your family. And there's studies on that. And Field of Greens is my healthy superfruit and my vegetable habit. It's the only fruit and vegetable product that literally promises better health. So at your next checkup, your doctor is going to notice your improved health, going to say, you are just looking fabulous, or you're going to get your money back from Field of Greens. And do your vitamins or do your green drinks promise you better health? No, they do not. Each superfruit and vegetable inside Field of Greens was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. Some support your heart, some support your lungs, some support your kidneys, others support metabolism, healthy energy, and weight loss. And so if you've resolved this year to get healthier in 2024, it starts with Field of Greens. And here we got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. So visit fieldofgreens.com. Use promo code Robert. Links are in the description. Very easy. Don't forget promo code Robert at fieldofgreens.com. Visit fieldofgreens.com, and the link is down in the description. And make sure you use Robert as the promo code so you save. And let's not forget, my friends, the vegetables want to be eaten. This hairdo is not included with your real organic superfood. So check it out and save 15% with code Robert. All right, now, my friends, let's get into business on the day. Starting in Florida. Donald Trump and his defense team filed a highly redacted motion to compel disclosure. Remember, Jack Smith is saying that the government's prosecution team is very small, very narrow. It's just like Jack Smith and a couple friends, that's all. So Trump doesn't need information from all of the other government agencies that are essentially prosecuting him. So Trump says, no. We're going to expand that hula hoop. I want information from Homeland Security, from the White House Counsel, from NARA, the National Archives. I want to know more than just the FBI or just the DOJ. What about the CIA and all of these other entities that were behind this classified document prosecution? Because they are the intelligence agencies that govern the classified documents. So they were all involved. They were all colluding to get Trump. And now Trump filed this motion, and we're going to go through this, but we're going to do this a little bit in reverse, because you'll see here, this is the motion from Donald Trump's team. And when we get into this, it is highly, highly redacted. And so we're going to read through the introduction, but as you'll see, look at all this. It's all redacted, okay? Big swaths of this thing that matter are just not, you can't read it, right? You can't read much of it. So we're going to go in reverse. The media wants all of this uncovered, all of this exposed, and so do we, obviously. So we're going to go see what the media, Jack Smith, and Trump are fighting about. Then we're going to come back and read that actual motion and unpack what's there and see if we can fill in the gaps. So here is what Jack Smith said. So Trump filed this motion. It's a motion to compel. Jack says, you don't need all of this discovery. You don't need this evidence. You don't need CIA, National Archives. We give you what you need. Trump says, no, Judge Cannon, order them to give us a bunch more stuff. So Jack Smith responded, and let's take a look at this motion, and we'll fly through these so we can get into the good stuff. But here's what Jack Smith said, all right? He says, look, all right, they filed this motion. They want us to disclose a bunch of stuff to them. And Jack Smith's very unhappy about what Trump filed. He says, 2 days ago, Donald Trump filed a motion to compel, we're going to read, that are replete with mischaracterizations and baseless arguments. Concurrently, Trump also filed a motion for leave to file a redacted brief. So this is a classified documents case. So we've got ex parte filings, which means they're not notifying the other side that they're even filing stuff with the court. We've also got stuff that's being filed under seal. So we have questions about whether the other side knows about it, but we don't know about it because it's all under seal. We've got the judge reviewing things in camera, right? Just behind closed doors and behind closed chambers. So it's a lot of confusion about what's going on here. So they say Trump, he filed another motion and that was joined for a redacted brief, right? But the government, writes Jack, we support full transparency of the record. Yeah, right. But they say consistent with witness safety, right? With national security. What the heck does that mean? National security. So when they say they support full transparency, they're going to tell you why they don't want full transparency. And they want it to be consistent with the court's protective order. Because transparency, if we have transparency, will expose the defendant's distortions of the factual and legal landscape in their motions to compel. But nevertheless, out of the concern for witness safety and the reasons below, so they say, well, our transparency will show that Trump's lying. But we can't do that. Why? Witness safety. The government opposes the motion, and in effect, the motion to disclose, we oppose that, in effect, which is a motion to disclose for the same reasons, okay? It's going to lead to discrete, sensitive information coming out. And they say, we can't see any of this stuff inside this motion that we're about to read because of harassment and intimidation. And they give us some case law here. The concern apply to this case just like any other. So our safety, right, of our witnesses is a prime concern. Public disclosure of their identities could infect the testimony. And so accordingly, the government objects, right? Jack Smith, who just told us how much he cares about transparency, objects to the unsealing of any of the stuff that we want to see. Why? It's going to reveal personally identifying information. And one document identifies 2 of the signal intelligence subcomponents that are redacted in the superseding indictment. And another identifies the FBI code name of a separate investigation. And one also discusses uncharged conducts. And so we can't talk about them. And so they tell us, right, for the foregoing reasons, court, please deny any request to unseal. Now, Trump says in response, a very quick response, he says, Trump takes really no position about any particular redaction request by counsel. In other words, if Jack has a problem like with witness safety or national security, this is Trump responding. He says, that's okay. Like, well, we can deal with that. Okay. But the office, they didn't make any effort to substantiate its vague claims about what actually is their concern about witness safety or national security. So they continue. Okay, if there's a witness safety problem, we'll help. If there's a national security problem, we'll redact it, no problem. But many of the, quote, potential references in Trump's motions, many of the things we're talking about, they've already been disclosed in public reports, and so we just like to talk about it. And in some instances, this data came out. Why? Because of leaks from the prosecutors. So Jack Smith released it, not us. And in the FOIA releases that we discussed in the motions, which also reveal some email addresses. Now, they say also that NARA just released some more information. NARA released additional information after this was filed. So they say Jack just wants none of this unsealed. In other words, make Jack explain what should be redacted. Okay, he should be the one to justify it. They say the special counsel, Jack Smith, which is not so special, illegally appointed, by the way, not because he's not appointed, did not even cite the First Amendment or any common law frameworks at all. Totally inappropriate. He says, nor has the special counsel's office cited any supporting case law or any other materials as well. That's just not the law. Noting that there is a notable dissonance between their view of how this works and the law. Now, the special counsel and their office, they chose to bring this case, and they have taken unprecedented steps to fuel biased press coverage and public interest in the proceedings in order to interfere with the election. These steps have included seeking the unsealing of the warrant that was used to raid Mar-a-Lago. They've also gave numerous public statements about their politically motivated prosecutions. They conspicuously and tellingly timed their tellingly defensive public statements by Attorney General Garland. He released a new statement on January 19th, 2024. Garland came out and said that the DOJ's imprimatur behind the office's speedy trial was because of public interest, right? Now, although the office seeks to strike a different tone, it's difficult to understand how this litigation is necessary, that we can't do this in public. Just let us do it in public. Don't let Jack Smith just make generalities. Oh, like my national security, my witness intimidate. Well, get specific, man. We'll work with you. Otherwise, it should be public. Now, this is the press wanting to jump into this. Now, they're getting excited about, oh my gosh, they say, here's the motion of the press to intervene to unseal all of this. And we're going to read that here coming up. So the press jumps in and look at all these people like, oh, this is juicy. It's everyone you can see here. It's basically all of the press. I think they got them all. Washington Post, Telemundo, LA Times, Guardian, USA Today, Fox News, Wall Street, CMG, Dow Jones, all of them are there. And they say, look, our coalition respectfully moves to intervene on this. Hello. We see that there was a motion filed with extensive redactions that we're going to read through, and they're asserting that they're not required to do so, right? So in other words, Trump and the defendants are saying, we made these redactions, but we don't think we need to do those. Now, they say they sought approval to file these in unredacted form because they want this stuff public. But the government, Jack Smith, these losers over there, and deranged thugs, they oppose the unsealing. Now, this court has already reminded the government, so Judge Cannon has already told them, what is your particularized basis for this? What is your specific reason? You don't just get to say, this is not Judge Chutkan's courtroom, okay, where you can just say, our democracy, and she does whatever you want. Here, because the press coalition agrees, all of them, that these are presumptively public, the government, okay, the government must carry a burden to justify the sealing. It now supports, the media supports unsealing this. So the media gives us the background. We know the story. Here is, in large part, a summary of what Trump wants. All of these 11 items of footage or of discovery. It's a lot. So let's jump right into the motion to compel and see what is inside, because everybody wants to know what is inside, including us and the rest of the media. So let's see if we can piece some of this together. This is Donald Trump's motion to compel. It's a 68-pager, a lot of redactions in here, so we'll hit the highlights. But this is filed in Judge Cannon's courtroom, West Palm Beach in Florida, United States of America versus Trump and the co-defendants. Donald Trump's motion to compel discovery, saying that Jack Smith is obligated to give him a lot more evidence in this case than he's currently giving him. Here's how Trump's defense starts. Your Honor, Judge Cannon, President Trump respectfully submits this memorandum and the accompanying classified supplement that, of course, we cannot read here, in support of Trump's motion for an order regarding the scope of the prosecution team. So we like to use the hula hoop analogy here. Who's inside this current hula hoop? Well, Jack Smith says it's FBI and DOJ, that's it. Trump says it's everybody else. To compel them to give us information from those other government entities. Saying Jack Smith has disregarded basic discovery obligations and DOJ policies in an effort to weaponize the Biden administration and their egregious efforts bringing this criminal case in pursuit of an objective that Biden cannot achieve on the campaign trail. They're using this to slow down President Trump, who's leading in the 2024 presidential election campaign. Now, the patent absurdity, writes Trump's defense, of the office's efforts is illustrated by the fact that while working towards a historic landslide victory in the Iowa caucuses, President Trump was also preparing, to Your Honor's attention today, the record of misrepresentations and discovery violations that have marred this case from the outset and illustrate that the office, Jack, has disregarded fundamental fairness and its legal obligations in favor of partisan election interference. New evidence, says Trump's team, that was obtained via requests under the Freedom of Information Act reveals that politically motivated operatives in the Biden administration and the National Archives, NARA, formerly led by Deborah Stidel Wall, began this crusade against President Trump in 2021. This is the classified documents case. There are 22 FOIA releases from the DOJ and NARA attached as exhibits here. Nearly all of these exhibits, though heavily redacted based on the FOIA rules that have no application to a criminal case, we can't see anything, represent discovery violations in which Jack Smith failed to produce documents that support arguments and positions that Trump's defense has articulated since at least October of last year. The FOIA requests, coupled with other evidence scattered throughout more than 1.2 million pages of discovery, reflect close participation in the investigation by NARA. So again, the hula hoop, NARA's inside, and Biden administration components like the White House counsel's office were assisting in the government's prosecution. That's discoverable evidence. We also had senior officials at the DOJ and the FBI all colluding. Now, these revelations are disturbing, but not surprising. These are all political, operatives under Joe now. Not surprising at all. The Biden administration leaked to the New York Times in April of 2022 that Biden's view that Trump should be prosecuted. And then guess what happened? In April is when Biden made the declaration. And then in August of 2022, AG Merrick Garland, he took the extraordinary step of Merrick Garland, who reports to Joe, approving the raid at Mar-a-Lago. Garland personally approved it. He's literally in Joe's cabinet. Joe Biden said Trump should be prosecuted. He abided. However, the details reflected in the FOIA releases add force to Trump's long-held position about the scope of Jack's team. And so these materials, they should have already been disclosed by Jack in an unredacted form at the outset of the case, but they didn't do that. They hid all of that from us, and we got it through the back door. We went and got it through FOIA. So this is a violation of discovery rules. Now, the parties' dispute regarding the scope of the prosecution team also extends into the intelligence community and the National Security Council, saying in this regard, the special counsel's office would have the court believe that the prosecutors have only dealt with these agencies at arm's length. Oh, no, just like, nothing big. But evidence relating to extensive coordination during the classification review process put the lie to these claims. Now, equally telling, in submissions to you, Judge Cannon, in August and September, Jack's team, they asserted in Trump versus the United States that the intelligence community was closely interconnected with and cannot be readily separated from the investigation. And again, the office's position is disturbing but not surprising. They are commingled and in bed with each other. Now, they said that to you, Judge, and so the prosecutors cannot escape those representations here. They just went back and read what they submitted earlier. Now, these issues are central to the instant motion because Jack Smith is seeking to avert its eyes, looking away from the exculpatory and the discoverable evidence that's already in the hands of other government agencies, like the White House, the DOJ, and the FBI, who provided guidance and assistance as this lawless mission proceeded. And there were other agencies that also supported the flawed investigation, like NARA, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and other politically charged components of the IC. As discussed below, even the Department of Energy has taken up the Biden mantle by seeking in June 2023 to terminate Trump's active security clearance, which is a highly inconvenient fact to the office's allegation of unauthorized access under U.S. code. And we learned about that. They said Trump had no active security clearance. He wasn't entitled to have these classified documents. No, this was illegal. But it turns out he actually did have an active security clearance with DOE. And so Biden's like, oops, let's terminate that. They amended the agency records to do it. So they say, look, Your Honor, no defendant, not even Trump, is required to predict every single form of exculpatory or discoverable evidence. We can't know what we don't know. It is incumbent upon Jack Smith's office to collect and produce those materials on a fair and judicially enforced definition of who's on the team. However, to be clear, the record discussed below strongly supports the existence of additional evidence of bias and political animus that is central to the defense case and must be produced promptly, Jack. This includes evidence of collusion between the office of Jack and the White House, the DOJ, the FBI, and NARA to use the Presidential Records Act as a law enforcement tool. Rereading it. Go prosecute Trump. They abused grand jury procedures. They violated due process and other constitutional rights, including executive privilege, which Jack Smith didn't even consider, and neither did Judge Beryl Howell, as noted in the dissent in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, when they gave everyone access, Jack Smith in particular, access to Donald Trump's Twitter DMs. Now, the office must produce other evidence of bias. Jack said, this is Jack's obligation under the rules. Any communications with members, relatives, associates of the Biden administration, communications between members of the Biden administration and Fulton County, that's Big Fanny's office, including meetings with Nathan Wade. All of those are substantiated by legal invoices. So Jack Smith met with Nathan Wade, or somebody did, right? White House counsel, they were flying all over the place. Also, evidence related to analytic bias harbored by the intelligence community is also going to be used as impeachment evidence here. So the essential premise, writes Trump's defense, of the classified supplement that we're not going to be able to see is that neither Trump nor any other party to this action is required to accept the word of the special counsel's office about the alleged sensitivities associated with the documents at issue in this case. The office's own conduct belies these claims. For example, Jack has suggested that documents reflecting the timing and the contents of the presidential daily brief on a given day are among the intelligence community's crown jewels. In fact, there are detailed descriptions of these briefs that were delivered to Trump on the CIA's public website, which are based on the same information, including the directly attributed quotes from the same witness that the office speaks about in hushed tones, saying additionally, as explained in a separate opposition, prosecutors and witnesses repeatedly ignored the so-called need-to-know requirement, and they shared literal war stories that have no relevance to this case. And so the court should not condone that behavior by permitting the office to invoke the need-to-know requirement to allow them to withhold discoverable information from Trump. Therefore, as discussed, Trump will continue to oppose ex parte proceedings under CIPA that serve as a fraud opportunity for the office to push inaccurate and untested narratives about this case. And we will continue to contest in pretrial motions the meritless claims about these statuses. And so accordingly, for the reasons set forth below, they say the court should conduct fact-finding, so dig into this, and determine what is the scope of the prosecution team. Who else was involved? Now, I want to see this investigation explode and the tentacles go into every stinking crevice of our disgusting government to find out exactly who was involved. But here's some background, just to see kind of how the mechanics work. Here's an early indication of NARA, Deborah Stidel-Wall. We remember her. Almost as soon as Trump left office, boom, they sprung into action. NARA started to work with the White House Office of Records Management. Boom. There were exaggerated claims related to record handlings under the Presidential Records Act. On May 5th, less than 5 months after the end of Trump's term, look what happened. A bunch of stuff. NARA's general counsel called Gary Stern, he did something. Stern noted that something, and Stern wrote a draft of something. All of that's redacted. However, in early June 2021, during ongoing good faith efforts by Trump to address the NARA issues, so-and-so did something. In August, there was another email that's redacted. In September, someone else did that. Stern sent an email that stated that this. And we don't know what he's saying. He might be saying, actually there is no prosecution that's possible here. Maybe he's saying the Presidential Records Act is not criminal. Maybe it doesn't authorize a raid. But they did it. In late September 2021, without disclosing that NARA had already drafted a referral letter, White House counsel Jonathan Sue, he did something too. Don't know what that was. And something else happened here. Don't know what that was. Whole paragraphs redacted. On October 5th, 2021, Stern sent another internal email. His email attached a redacted item, which he proposed to do the thing. 3 days later, the Biden administration did the thing. See the exhibits on that. We can't see. Now, on December 30th, one of Trump's PRA representatives, the Presidential Records Act, notified NARA that in response to NARA's request, you can come pick up the boxes. In response to an internal NARA email claiming that some of the materials contained classified markings, then Deputy Archivist Deborah Stidel-Wall did something. I'm sure she referred that over to somebody for prosecution. Or, hey, oh my gosh, classification markings. And she does not like Trump, man, because Trump told her that she had a lot of archives. At one clip, there was a weird clip, and she kind of did the old eye roll to him. So in an effort to cover up evidence of bias and bias participation, Jack Smith has falsely claimed that NARA independently referred this matter to the DOJ. Not true. However, the evidence demonstrates that's not true at all. Someone else was involved. According to an FBI report, Stern and Jay Bosanko, also of NARA, what did they do? A bunch of stuff. Here they did this and this, and they did all this, and they did that, and they did all that redacted stuff. So it sounds like they were colluding. On January 25th, something happened here. Now, on that same day, NARA wrote to Thomas Monheim, the Inspector General of the intelligence community, and he said that we have very high-level potential spillage about the destruction of presidential materials and evidence. Now, the document has not been produced in discovery, but a heavily redacted version has. And so you see here at 3:01 p.m., it sounds like here, on February 9th, on the date that the special counsel's office claimed the referral was made, following events happened. 2:17 p.m., the House Committee on Oversight requested information from NARA. 3:01 p.m., something happened. 3:03 p.m., there was an internal email that indicated that Stern had alerted NARA about something. Then NARA sent a sham referral over to the DOJ, and NARA claimed in the email that Stern had done something. We don't know what it is. Bunch more redactions. In order to avoid that obligation under the Presidential Records Act, which might have to, might be a notice requirement, you have to notify someone. But the FBI didn't want to do that. So the FBI then did this to avoid the disclosure notice. However, on February 24th, this happened. And then they said that the 15 boxes that Trump gave them consumed their thoughts. In March 2022, Garland authorized the DOJ and the FBI to open up an investigation into Trump. Now, although NARA and the OIG had been providing the DOJ and the FBI with info to these boxes, the White House counsel's office did not seek President Trump's permission to grant the FBI access to the boxes. So in other words, Biden just gave the boxes to the FBI. Now, as Trump and his representatives considered the request, Brat asserted to Trump that this, In May, they said they needed access to the documents. And so, of course, there's a lot of procedural history here. And here's what the court should do. The court should reject Jack Smith's narrow definition of the prosecution team. He says it's very limited. That's not true. There's extensive coordination and resource sharing. The White House is involved. Senior officials at the DOJ are involved. FBI is involved. Numerous other agencies. And Jack Smith cannot reap the benefits of those coordinated activities without giving us information that could be exculpatory. So therefore, the court must reject their position that their team is so narrow. And the resolution of this issue impacts the rest of the case. We've got to review what they're not giving to us. They say criminal discovery is not a game. This is the law. They have a scope that's defined under Brady. They've got an obligation to give us this material. 11th Circuit has said the thing. A lot of case law here that we're fast forwarding through. Anytime you see all these quotes, it's just a bunch of case law. So we're kind of copying, pasting, and fasting forward through it. But here are the teams that actually participated in the investigation. Okay, it's not just Jack Smith and his 3 goons. Molly, the highlighter girl, and Jay Bratt from Florida. NARA is a part of the team. NARA is a part of this team because of the agency's participation in significant investigative steps. They collected 15 boxes. They coordinated with the DOJ, the FBI, and the White House. Now, they've already conceded that the OIG was involved in this, especially with that sham email referral. Now, as discussed earlier above, they say, by at least the fall of 2021, NARA's general counsel had said this, redacted. So we know he was involved. One of the first investigative steps that was taken by the FBI appears to have been the blank. Probably talking to NARA. Went right over to NARA. And so that letter is explaining it's further evidence that NARA must be considered part of the prosecution team. Now, at this time, the evidence of NARA's coordination arises largely from FOIA requests. But what we've got strongly supports that we need access to NARA to see what they got. Now, the prosecution team says Trump's defense also includes the intelligence community agencies that participated. The Office of the ODNI, the Defense Department, the NSA, the CIA, the National Geospatial Agency, the NRO, the DOE, and the State Department. All there. Saying though the special counsel's office has suppressed these communications that have been spread by all these people, we know through FOIA releases that NARA started to coordinate with the Inspector General of the intelligence community. Moreover, for reasons that were already set forth in our classified supplement, the intelligence community's participation warrants inclusion in the team. And so we need access to know what they know. And the DOJ even acknowledged this. They said that our classification reviews are under the supervision of the Director of National Intelligence. And so we should see what they've got. They also include the White House. Oh, the White House is definitely involved. The prosecution team should include the National Security Council, the Executive Office of the President, the Counsel's Office, and the White House ORM. Saying the National Security Council is clearly a part of the team who's been involved in all of this. The council was responsible for the creation and the handling of many documents at issue here. And they're also a part of the team because in September, NARA, the lawyer, sent this over to someone. 2 weeks later, Stern said this. And then in January, something happened here. They've been obsessed with those 15 boxes. And in NARA, in May, NARA archivist Deborah Wall disclosed that she was acting in part based on communications to the counsel to the president. So NARA is also involved with the White House. So NARA talking to the White House. Okay, we got access to NARA. Should get access to the White House too. Now, although Biden clearly took steps to create a false appearance of separation, the White House components cannot escape this. And so we must see this material. Similarly, the DOJ telling us the prosecution team also includes senior DOJ officials at the AG's office, that's Garland, Deputy AG's office, Office of Legal Counsel, and the National Security Division. Following NARA, something happened here, and a lot happened here. It just keeps going and going and going. NARA sent a letter overruling Trump's objection. And just over a week later, this happened over here. And the Attorney General, Merrick, he personally approved the search warrant that led to the raid. And at that time, Jay Bratt, before all of this was special counseled, he was also working at the DOJ. So on October 3rd, we know this. There was an email on that date. And they were sending this emails, back and forth. Someone else reviewed a Judicial Watch motion. Shout out to Judicial Watch. And Bratt, who was on the team at the DOJ before he was appointed or he was brought in as a special counsel, deputy, basically, he was talking to all these people, Olson, Newman, Toscas, several attorneys. And what is this? Bratt told these people, look at this, on August 17th, Bratt, he told Olson, Newman, Toscas, Gonzalez, and several attorneys from the deputy AG's office, he gave them an instruction to, quote, turn off the cameras prior to the raid. What is that? And he agreed, turn off the cameras prior to the raid. On the night of August 17th, Bratt sent a letter to Trump about safety concerns related to alleged video of the raid. Later, Bratt and Gonzalez also coordinated regarding media unsealing requests. And so they're colluding all over the place. Now, the prosecution team is not limited to just Jack's office. It's much bigger. They used the same grand jury in D.C. for both cases. Assistant Special Counsel John Pelletieri appeared. But dating back to June 2022, something happened here. And Wyndham, he's now a senior assistant special counsel in D.C. On the other hand, Bratt participated in other interviews, and collectively these considerations reveal there was no principled basis for limiting scope to the attorneys who are working on the case. It's all of them. They also want the FBI, the Counterintelligence Division. On February 9th, something happened here. We can't see it. But they discussed this in the classified documents. FBI participants included not only personnel from the field office in Washington, but a bunch of other FBI people. This guy, Kohler, he leads the Counterintelligence Division, and at least one agent from, quote, FBI headquarters did this. And so we should see all of them. And what about the Secret Service? Well, Jack Smith worked closely with the Secret Service and his FBI agents at least two important points. First, the Secret Service did all this stuff that we can't see. And second, they did all this stuff that we also can't see. And so all of those agencies should be brought into the discoverable team, and their materials should be discoverable. So they say Jack Smith has an obligation. He's got a duty to go find this stuff from all of those different agencies. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's something that you don't have to do. They must be compelled, Your Honor. Trump has made a series of discovery requests, and they're not going to give us the material. And so you need to do it. Here's a lot more case law that we'll fast forward through and see what else is inside. So that was page 38. Let's fast forward to see what they're asking for down here as we conclude the filing. A lot more redactions, as you can see. And they're just making arguments. They want CCTV video footage. Central to Jack Smith's prosecution is the allegation that they conspired to hide classified documents. But one of the manner and the means of the conspiracy is moving boxes to conceal them. But the concealment allegedly occurred between May and June, which were the days leading up to Trump's attorney's scheduled review of the boxes. Okay, so Trump moved things for the lawyers as evidence of the fact that Trump attorney 1 did not review all the boxes that contain the markings. They say the storage room was inspected by Jay Bratt. But then the superseding indictment came out, and they said that the documents were not in the room. So therefore, critical to the defense of the special counsel's allegations is about whether these boxes were moved. Who moved the boxes during that time? So put simply, the CCTV footage in this matter is central to Jack Smith's prosecution and our defense. However, Jack Smith's production of the CCTV has been unworkable, and it precludes us from having meaningful access to this discovery. So they're hiding even the CCTV footage. The initial production is 80 terabytes. Here's the correspondence. This is what they've been sending back and forth. Now, each of these folders contains, oh my gosh, I've actually experienced this firsthand. Not, 80 terabytes of data, but the government creates, their proprietary evidence systems. They log the stuff in their systems, and then when they have to give you the files back, you cannot open them. So special counsel indicated that CCTV footage was contained in 21 separate folders as depicted below in their correspondence. So, okay, folders. Now, each of these folders contains hundreds of files that were all compressed using 7-zip, a proprietary software. Decompressing these folders required hundreds of hours. Below is a screenshot of the extraction folder. So there's what one paragraph looks like. Here's another extraction folder. And it's probably extracting, going to take 400 years to extract this. Okay, great. Now, of note, Trump's lawyers learned that these files were not produced to Jack Smith in this compressed format. Isn't that curious? Rather, the special counsel compressed them and produced them that would require us to extract them before we could ever review them. Now, their production included proprietary players produced by the camera system vendors. But we extracted the players. We continued to have issues playing the videos. I have literally done this, okay? Like at our law firm, we used to have so many problems with this. And it would be from different prosecutors, right? It was wild. Can't even play it. Well, come into our office and you can play it there. No, we're not going to do that. Defense counsel for Mr. Nada was not able to launch the player at all. Defense counsel entered the below errors and to this date have received no response. So they compress them, they put them into their evidence systems, and then they spit them back out, and you can't access it. And then you look like a tech idiot. Now, counsel for Dale Livy area had the same thing. So we consulted tech support from Millstone that actually captures the CCTV footage, and they advised defense counsel that the special counsel's production lacked the required technical configuration files. So they reconstitute the evidence, and then you can't even access it. So when the lawyers advised special counsel of this, they said to us, well, the FBI also had difficulty viewing the videos and advised that to make the video work, additional files would need to be copied from each of the individual folders, and there are thousands of those that are provided by the special counsel. And thus, from its initial receipt of the video that is crucial to the defense, special counsel was aware of issues that we couldn't even view it. Now, to that end, internal documentation of their receipt and the processing of the CCTV confirmed that the defense was not provided with the video that we can actually use. For example, we sent this and this and this. And so, look, Judge, accordingly, just tell them to give us the footage in a manner that we can watch. The government's obligation is to produce this. It defies credulity to suggest that special counsel has satisfied its burden by first altering the raw data that it received and then knowingly producing it in a way that is not even reviewable. We know that Jack Smith has rendered the video viewable because it included key sections of that video in its production of video to the defendants. And so Jack should be required to produce all the video it obtained in a viewable format. And so Trump's defense says, for the foregoing reasons, President Trump respectfully submit that this court, Judge Cannon in Florida, should, following any hearing to resolve these factual disputes, so who's involved? Secret Service, NARA, DOJ, bigger, FBI, bigger, broader, and so on, issue an order defining the scope of the Jack team, and also compel Jack Smith to disclose the information requested inside and in our accompanying classified document. Signed by Todd Blanche, Christopher Keese, articulating why we need a lot more evidence in this case and why Jack Smith and his deranged thug prosecutors are just covering it all up because it is damning for their case and they don't want to see it. Trump moved boxes around. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So his lawyer could look at it for documents that were declassified that he had every right to have because he was the president. And we have something in the Constitution called the opinion clause, which says that Trump, the president, is entitled to the opinions of his officers. They're his. Congress can't turn around and then pass some stupid statute that supersedes the Constitution. Deborah Stidel Wall can't collude to say, you didn't declassify this by filling out our forms. Sorry, your forms don't matter. The Constitution matters. Thanks for playing the game. So this is a motion to compel. I'm very excited about this because this will have some spillover into the rest of the Trump prosecutions. If Jack Smith's team in the classified documents case is expanded, well, we know there's going to be a lot of overlap. And they're going to make the same argument in Judge Chutkan's courtroom. And Judge Chutkan is going to issue a different response to this. And we're going to have a little bit of a conflict there between these two sides. And it's going to be just a lot of fun to dig into it. But one of the main claims here was that the Biden administration was colluding on this, something we obviously know. Kamala got asked about this, and she was over on whatever network this was talking about this. And so let's see what she said about this during this conversation.
What is your reaction to those who believe his statements?
Okay, well, let's start with the facts. You just outlined them, so actually I don't need to repeat them in terms of what have been the allegations about
Spit it out, Kamala.
President. And I do believe that the American people care about rule of law and care about speaking truth and acknowledging truth. I do believe in my travels around our country that, for example, a statement that suggests that insurrectionists who attacked our Capitol and committed acts of violence should not be called patriots, as the former president has done.
Should they be called candidates?
Well, the people who attacked on January 6th should not be called patriots. What they did is they attacked our Capitol, they committed acts of violence, and they need to be taken into account and held accountable for those acts. So these are just facts, and we are going to see what happens in terms of any cases that are being litigated in a court of law.
But what about the accusation that it is Biden's DOJ that is overseeing any of the charges against him?
Well, listen, everyone who is paying close attention understands that there is a clear and non-negotiable division in terms of the separation between our administration and what the Department of Justice does in terms of its investigations, in terms of its prosecutions. And that line has never been crossed.
Does that also include what's going on in Georgia? Obviously, you were a state prosecutor. This is the federal government we're talking about. But there are those who try to conflate what DA Fani Willis is doing in Georgia with the acts of the Department of Justice.
What's the question?
The question is, do you believe that when Donald Trump is making these statements to suggest this is all attributed to the Biden administration or to the Department of Justice, what is your response to people who believe that, in fact, it's all orchestrated as
Good
one?
questions.
Well, what he is saying is not factual, period. Period. And that would not be new for him, would it?
That's a Karine.
I wonder when
That's a Karine Jean-Pierre line. Kamala, we need a little bit more than that. You're the vice president. You're not Karine.
you look at the rule of law, as you've mentioned, and I do think the American public is very well in tune with discussions surrounding who is above the law and who is not. These phrases come out very easily now. It's almost like the Miranda warnings people are able to recite. When you hear that, juxtapose that to the issue of immunity, possibly, whether a president should have absolute immunity. Do you think people believe that it's appropriate for a president to have immunity?
I think we're going to have to leave that to the lawyers who are handling the cases.
Some would say it's up to the voters to look at issues of who can be on the ballots as well, in places like Colorado or Maine.
Good question.
Are you comfortable leaving that up to the courts or to the voters?
Those cases are all being litigated, and I'll watch as they go through their process.
When you look,
Kamala didn't like a lot of this. Her little one-word answer, one-sentence answer. Who is this woman asking me all these legal questions? This is very complicated. I don't know how to answer this. I thought I was here to talk about Venn diagrams and buses with USB ports on them. So that's what we got from her. Obviously, they're behind it. They are breaking glass in case of emergency. This is the only thing that they've really got. They can't talk about their administration's successes. So the only thing else they can do take out their political opponent, just like Joe Biden's doing with his other DNC candidates right now, keeping them off the ballots so that he can just skate into victory, because that's how they play. They're cheaters, they're liars, and they're bullies. And we're going to keep covering this, my friends. Donald Trump, in his defense, filed a very nice motion, a motion to compel. Redacted. The media wants to see it. We want to see it, so we can really unpack all of the collusion that was happening between the White House and Jack Smith and Merrick Garland to go after their political opponent. And my friends, we'll be here continuing to cover it. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. If you want to grab any of the PDFs that we just covered, all available at robertgovea.com. The link is down in the description below. Sign up for our newsletter. And don't forget to share the show with a friend or family member. Invite them to come over here and join us so that we see them and you back here on the next one. All right. And now, my friends, we are turning over to Thomas Massie and the pipe bomber related to J6. Digging into it with a nice X thread. Representative Thomas Massie sat down and interviewed a former FBI assistant director called Stephen D'Antonio, and something came out of that conversation as it relates to the January 6th pipe bomber. They're saying that they don't know who this person is. FBI still has a big fat reward out for this individual. Meanwhile, they're able to identify the nose hair on some J6er and then raid his house in the dawn of night. So we have a thread to go through from Thomas Massie, who is sharing some details from the transcripts from the sit down with Stephen D'Antonio. And here's what Thomas Massie says. On June 7th, 2023, the House Judiciary Committee interviewed former FBI Assistant Director in charge of Washington, Stephen D'Antonio. Now, most of the interview covered other things like a Mar-a-Lago search warrant, but I did ask him about the J6 pipe bombs. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the pipe bomb story, a lot of great reporting on this from guys like Stephen Baker and Darren J. Beater from Revolver News. Been doing some great work. And he says, I suggest reading that work. But for the purpose of this thread is to post the original transcript of my interview with the FBI. In addition to this transcript, there'll be some videos at the end of this that we'll take a look at. So Mr. D'Antonio, former FBI assistant, he was in charge of Washington, D.C. FBI from 2019 to just before January 6, 2021. I'm sorry, until November of 2022. So he was active during January 6. Now, he was in charge of agents who were conducting the J6 pipe bomb investigation. And previously, he was the special agent in charge of FBI Michigan. Here is the transcript. Took place June 7, 2023. The interview conducted in the Rayburn House. Representatives Jordan and Massie are there. This is an interview of Stephen D'Antonio. Now, from this, we get an introduction. The question to him was about his background. And he said, this is Antonio. He says, in 2019, in October, I became the SAC in Detroit, the entire state of Michigan. And then the director asked me to come down to Washington, which is, I was happy in Detroit, but it was 11 months in. In September, I got the call from the director asking me to come down and take the seat. And that's where I started. So I was honored to do that, says Steve. I was happy to be out of the Beltway, honestly, but I came back to as the ADIC in 2020 and served until November. So 2 years in Washington. Thank you, sir. And prior to your retirement, he's no longer there, your last position was the assistant special agent in charge of Washington, right? I was the assistant director. Ooh, assistant director in charge. I'm sorry. Yes, of course. The ADIC. He says, yep. And all of that with one headquarters too. Well done. What was the date of your retirement? He says November 30th, 2022. Okay. Can you briefly describe your role? He says, well, basically I ran the field office in Washington, right as the assistant director in charge. That's what I do. I had 5 special agents in charge. Now it's 4 special agents in charge and an IAC, which is the intelligence analyst in charge, right? It's still at the SAC level. It's just an intelligence assistant. It's just a different name. You have the intelligence analyst in charge of the intelligence division, but at the time I took over, there were 5 SACs. So basically 5 of me from Detroit. So it's a large field office in Washington. About 1,800 employees, task force officers, second largest division in the country. That's why we have an ADIC position. You know, it covers most of Northern Virginia as well. Richmond has Winchester as well. So, you know, every program in DC comes under me as the ADIC, right? So criminal, CT, CI, intelligence, every matter. It's just like you're the CEO. You're the president of the company, you know. Can you describe, Mr. FBI, the 5 SACs, you know, just sort of the branches? He says, yeah, cyber branch, criminal branch. I always forget the cyber portion of it, but criminal and cyber division. We had us counterintelligence. And at the time I took over as the counterterrorism and crisis, I think we named it crisis management division, right? Because it had a crisis management under it. So counterterrorism of crisis management and the intelligence division and so on. Now, so you said you had retired. When did you decide to retire? He says, well, all right. You know, when you become an agent and you have the 50-year mark, right? You know, a lot of times we start looking, right? So for me, I was 50. I was 50. I started, you know, looking, putting feelers out there. An opportunity came calling in the spring, I think, of 2022. Like, I was happy with my job. I really was. A lot of my positions, he goes on and on. I liked what I was doing. We fast forward through all the intros. Thomas Massie is now asking some questions. He's talking a lot. Berger says, that's okay. They asked you. Now, Thomas Massie's back on the record. Massie says, all right, Stephen. Sorry for the disjointed questions. He says, that's fine, sir. No problem. I want to ask some questions about the pipe bomb. Yes. That were allegedly planted on January 5th and found on January 6th. Stephen, FBI, can you describe the nature of the pipe bombs? Were they viable? So the tip that we received from Quantico, from the lab down in Quantico, was that they were viable devices, that they could explode and they could cause harm or death depending on the explosion, right? Massie says, did they have explosions in them? My understanding from Quantico was that they did. They had black powder, I believe, but I'm not completely sure on that. But we were told by a lab report that they were viable devices that could explode. Did the lab report say what the detonator mechanism was? I don't recall what they said the detonator mechanism was. There was a kitchen timer on top with the clips and wires and all that stuff. I'm not a bomb expert, so I don't know. Massie, who's a little bit of a technical guy, he says, well, he says, I saw the wires as well. And Massie, like, I think he has taken old, just to give you an idea, he's taken old, Tesla's getting wrecks. He takes the batteries from those totaled cars, and I think he converted them into like a home battery system. Like, I think I saw him post, like, you know, like, this is my wall of batteries. I was like, oh my gosh. He's like soldering them together. You know, I'm like, that dude's crazy, but cool. So he knows. He's like, I looked at those pictures of that bomb. He's like, is that all it takes? So he says, well, I saw the wires as well, which would presume that they were electrical detonators, because there's wires. Were there batteries in it? He says, well, I don't know. I don't know the components, sir. He's like, I know a lot about batteries. I don't know the components, sir. I really don't. I'm sorry. Okay, so the kitchen timer, how long could you set the kitchen timer for? What was the duration on that? Well, if I remember the picture of the kitchen timer, I think it was like 60 minutes. It was rudimentary at best, yeah. Are you aware that former agent Kyle Seraphin, shout out to Kyle on X, that he talked to technicians working in his office, and he said that they were actually not viable, that they couldn't have been, that they wouldn't have exploded. Are you aware of that? So I've seen the report from Mr. Seraphin. I'm not going to discount Kyle's view. That's his view from wherever he sits and the people he talked to. I don't know who he talked to. All I know is that we at the Washington field office received a report from the lab division, which are the bomb experts, and I don't know what Kyle's expertise in bomb making is, that they were viable devices. So the only thing I could go by is what my lab said and not what Kyle says. Massie says, are you familiar with the diversion thesis, that these were set up to be a diversion, Mr. FBI? Yeah, I've heard people saying that. But if you watch, I've done a lot of media reports. I was trying to get the information out there, tips and stuff like that, right? I will not speculate. I'm not going to speculate on that. I think that's speculation at best when people say that it's a diversionary tactic. We'll never know until we find the person that actually did it, says the FBI, or persons that actually did it. So I can't speculate on that. Could it have been diversionary? Yes, that's one theory. Obviously, it's one theory, but is it the only theory? I don't really know. What's kind of your job to know, man? You're like, what's the alternative theory of the FBI? Anyways, so it looks like, Massie says, it looks like the head of the Capitol Police believes it was a diversion. So Steve Sund, shout out to Stephen Sund, who wrote a great book, available on Amazon. Yeah, Steve Sund, the Capitol Police, believes it was a diversion. He says, yeah, chief of police, yeah, I believe he wrote that in his book. Again, it's pure speculation. There's no intelligence. He says, look, I ran the investigation for 2 years until I stepped out. We don't know. We don't even know the gender at this point. We could speculate, and there's a lot of people that are speculating as to the gender. Massie says, how confident are you that the individual depicted in the surveillance footage on January 5th set both of the pipe bombs in place? Steve says, well, the video that we saw, I feel confident that by the video that we have, that the person, that person planted those. Do you think they intended for the bomb to go off the next day? Because it was an hour timer? I can't speculate on that, sir. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you think it was technically possible for a kitchen timer? No. That has a 1 hour duration? No. He says no. He's like, I get where we're going. I got it. No. To detonate a bomb 17 hours later? No, I don't, he says. And I saw the same kitchen timer as you. I agree. I don't know when they were supposed to go off. Maybe they weren't supposed to go off. We don't know. We honestly don't know. And that's some of the pain. And Massie, he says, shouldn't you know these things? Like, it seems, FBI says, if you don't know who the subject is, you don't know what their motive and intent is, right? So you can never find out, which is perfect for us. So going back to the technical aspects, says Massie, Mr. Battery, he says the bomb had a 1 hour timer. FBI says, so should it have exploded in the hour? Or should it have been waiting there for somebody to find? Those are the theories we have, right? In any investigation, you hypothesize what the theory of the case is going to be. So Massie says, well, let me get to the waiting there for somebody to find aspect of this, if that's what you think this is. Do you think it's a remarkable coincidence that they were found minutes in time, just away from the initial breach of the Capitol just prior to that? Like, they just found them. Weird. Right as the Capitol was being breached. FBI says, yeah, I don't know. It just is a lot of coincidences happen all the time. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There really are. So how did who found the first pipe bomb at the RNC? And how was that found? I don't recall, sir. I really don't. That was I don't recall who found it. Okay, so just to refresh your memory, it was somebody who was walking through the alley to do her laundry, supposedly. Is that true? And we know a lot more about this woman. She's in a bunch of other interesting, intelligence type of companies, I believe. Mr. D'Antonio says, okay, so where it was is behind a garbage. It was behind a garbage something. It wasn't a dumpster, but it was a can, I believe. And there was a door in the back. And then she came through to do her laundry. I believe it was right there. Yeah, I don't recall. So it seems like a remarkable coincidence that it sat there for 17 hours and then it got discovered about 5 minutes before the initial breach. Weird. FBI says, so I'm not sure how much foot traffic went through there, right? I don't know if you visited that location. Massie says, I have. Yeah, I've been there. FBI says, okay, I have too. It wasn't in an open area. It was kind of that back area, right? So there was an alleyway there. I'm not sure how much foot traffic was back there. So Massie says, okay, well, let's talk about the DNC bomb there, because there is amazing foot traffic there. And Steve says, yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's right there on the street. Well, how was that one discovered there, FBI? Again, I'm not sure the specifics of who discovered that. It's like, are these guys brain dead? why don't they know anything? I mean, they're like very intelligent special agents from the FBI. They can't remember anything. No wonder the building got a protest, because they couldn't figure out, they can't remember anything. 2 years ago, the pipe bomb on January 6th, the most consequential day since the Civil War for these people, can't remember anything about the first one at the RNC or the second one. I don't know. I'm not sure on the specifics of who discovered that. I was in the command post that day, and all I found out was that there were pipe bombs were discovered. Okay, but was your office responsible for the investigation? Yes. And how would you characterize the resources spent on the investigation? He says, well, so I was the head of the office. I put every person I possibly could, given all the circumstances of J6, and every resource I possibly had to that investigation. It was a priority case from day one until the day I left. So, which is wild. And he doesn't remember anything about it. But your investigation didn't find out how the bomb was discovered at the DNC. Is that true? He says, no, this video of the person sitting on the bench and putting the device down. Sorry, he says, Massie corrects himself. Sorry, discovered, not planted. Sorry, discovered. Yeah, not planted. Oh, discovered? It would have been. I just don't recall what it was. So not planted, but discovered. Massie says, you know, I think it's remarkable. It was discovered within minutes of the other bomb being discovered, both of these bombs. And my staff and I found video, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but it seems to indicate that a passerby in a black hoodie, he says, okay, you got the video. He discovered that. Yeah, a passerby in a black hoodie. Remarkably coincidental that they found it at the same time. He walked up to the police Metro car. He told the Metro police, who seemed to have directed that individual in a video that I've seen, to a detailee of the vice president's car, right? Kamala was right there. There was another SUV, and within minutes, they get her out of their SUV. They find it. The officials now see the bomb, and then the incoming VP is evacuated. This whole thing happens within minutes. Steve says, okay. But the individual in a hoodie going up to the two police cars after he's passed by that bench, did your investigators review this video, Steve? He says, I'm not aware of the video you're talking about, sir. I'm just not. If you had seen that video, would you be interested in speaking to that person? He says, absolutely. Seems like he discovered that second bomb, right? You want to know who that is. Steve says, in any investigation, whoever discovers the device is somebody you need to talk to, right? Absolutely. Because they could be the one that planted the device in the first place. Wow. You know, so that's just investigation 101. Incredible. In any investigation, whoever discovers the device is somebody you need to talk to, because they could be the one that planted the device in the first place. What an intelligent statement from this FBI agent. So, but I am not aware of that video. I'm not aware of that person. I don't know who that was. I don't recall. It's 2 years ago, right? Yeah, that's not that long ago. You're supposed to be an intelligence person, for crying out loud. So there's been a lot of stuff that's happened prior to that, but I'm not aware of that, how it was discovered. Kind of crazy, right? That they don't even know that, like, the guy in charge of Washington doesn't even know. Okay, let's say 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Okay, 3 years. Okay, we'll round up. So I'm not aware of that or how it was discovered. Massie says, you know, I'm not an investigator, but I would want to talk to that person. Steve says, absolutely. Who discovered the second bomb? I think it's remarkable nobody's mentioned that in public. If we're trying to get that public, you know, you did a video appealing to the public to give you information. He says, yeah, I did. I did it. It was correct with tips and all that stuff. The information is paramount as well. So I think the timing is questionable. The video that you did release to help the public find this person who you think may have set the bombs the night before, there's 2 camera angles at the DNC, and we know this because the FBI released a video from 2 camera angles. But the camera angle that would have shown the alleged perpetrator placing the bomb, that video wasn't released to the public. Is there a reason why you didn't release that other camera video, FBI? He says, I don't recall what a reason would be. You know, the case agents described, people put those videos together for us to kind of put out there. I wasn't part of playing, you know, I wasn't editing the videos or putting the videos together as the ADIC. I'm not sure. No one, you know, explained to me that there was the reason that that would have been left out. Massie says, on the videos that were released, did they release the full resolution in the full frame? Which I believe the answer is no, as do many other people who viewed it. Mr. D'Antonio says, my understanding is yes. My understanding too is that the cameras at the facilities weren't exactly the best cameras like you'd expect at this day and age. And of course, the question is, what cameras produce frame rates that are substandard? So I think Darren Beatty and the Revolver crew, they did an analysis on the camera footage. It's like, you know, so it's at a weird frame rate. You know, most cameras, let's say, record at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second or 24 frames per second or whatever. Theirs is like 17 and a half frames per second. Like, oh, that's weird. So did they cut out every other frame? Like, why is it non-standard? But we know why. It's the FBI. He says, you know, I think, he says, the cameras were terrible. I think I would have a better camera on my house than the DNC had on it. Yeah, it's our government. So Massie says, you know, former FBI assistant director called Christopher Swecker, and the Bureau sometimes withholds or circulates incorrect information to protect an investigation, though he didn't know whether that was the case in the pipe bombs. Was that the case? Did you circulate any information that's not correct, Steve? Oh, God, no, he says. No, I would never do that. Why, you know, so I know Chris. I know why he's making comments like that when he doesn't know anything about the case. Christopher Swecker. Those are dangerous comments to be had anyway. So he never called me and asked me my opinion, but I never released anything that was not truthful or would never release disinformation. We might have withheld information to not alert the person that we know more than that, but I don't believe that in this case. Like, we were asking for tips at this point. We had no idea. Hopefully you can see on my face that I want to find that person, right? He's like, look, I want to find him. This is a person or persons, right? We just don't know who planted those things. So, you know, before I left, the same case agents that were working this case from day one were working the case at the end. They were extremely passionate about what we were doing. We briefed the director when he came over for a visit in October and everything. We put in so many data scientists, computer scientists, going through every single document, every single receipt, every single component that was into the pipe bomb, those pipe bombs, to try to track down everything. And I hope the Bureau gives you a brief. I really do. Now, what's so interesting about this exchange is that this person who discovered the pipe bomb is now known to be a Capitol Hill police officer who figured that out. So Steve D'Antonio apparently didn't know that a Capitol Hill police officer actually discovered that pipe bomb and alerted the agents in the car to this. So that's exactly right. I agree with him. Whoever discovers the device is somebody you need to talk to, because they could be the one that planted the device in the first place. So yes, obviously, not saying that that one Capitol police officer did it, but yes, the government. Now, did they use the cell phone data to find the suspect that they think planted the bombs? Here's Massie. He says, we received video of this. The alleged perpetrator, when he's dropping the pipe bomb off, he uses a cell phone, right? Where that produced nothing. It's a geofence of data of cell phone records. He says, well, so FBI says, look, there's a lot of data that came in. Yes, I've seen the same video. I watched the same video. We put out the same video. It looks like a phone. Was it a real phone? Not a real phone? Was it a ruse? Was it, I picked up my phone several times at meetings going, oh yeah, I got to take this call and walk out, right? The phone's not on, right? It's like, oh yeah, someone's calling me. The phone's not on. So was the person sitting there trying to pretend like he was taking a call? We don't know. Until we find the person, we actually ask them those questions. We did a complete geofence. We have complete data. Well, not complete, because there's some data that was corrupted by one of the providers, not purposely by them though. It's just unusual circumstances that we have corrupt data from one of the providers. I'm not sure, I can't remember right now which one, but for that day, which is awful because we don't have that information to search. Oh, man. So it could have been that provider, but yeah, with our luck, with this investigation, it probably was, right? So maybe if we did have that data wasn't corrupted and it wasn't purposely corrupted. And I don't want any conspiracy theories, right? To my knowledge, it wasn't corrupted, but that could have been a good information that we don't have, right? So that is painful for us not to have that. So we looked at everything. And again, I think you were looking, I would have given you a brief. I would have loved to have given you a brief on this stuff, right? I really would have. But I think it's important that everyone understands before people like Kyle Seraphin and others that are not a case agent have no knowledge of the case. We have more knowledge than you, buddy. You don't remember anything of what happened. He has also made another accusation too, that there was an individual with a Metro card. My understanding is all that was chased down. That was a lead that was chased down, but he says that we didn't chase it down. He has no clue what we did. He's a former FBI agent as well. He knows the same people you do. Massie says, but didn't you have a lead on who discovered the second bomb? You didn't see that in the video? I'm not aware of that, sir. I'm just like, as the ADIC, I'm I'm at the top. I'm up here. Everyone else is doing it. So I wasn't working the case. So I would. He says, right, but you looked at a lot of resources, right? I would suspect that. He said, oh, sorry. I would suspect that my squad, my agents, would have chased that information down. So just to be, he says, Massie, and someone else jumps in. So just to put a fine point on it, you do not know whether they interviewed the person that discovered the file at the DNC. I don't know. If there was that video and we have that video, we definitely should have, yes. But I'm not intricately aware of every single step that we took, right? Because I'm being briefed on these things, right? They're doing the work and telling me. That's all I have for now. And then they asked some other questions. Now, here are some follow-up questions about the cell phone. So you're just trying to de-escalate the situation, right? Massie, I got some quick follow-up about the pipe bomb. He says, yeah, absolutely. So we've got the January 5th pipe bomb suspect, right, who's seen on video meandering about for several minutes. He says, right. And I asked you, was there an effort to use geofencing to search the data to find this guy? Because we see in the video he's using a phone. Can you tell me, you said there was some data that was corrupted by a telecom provider. Who was that? My understanding was that we would try to get phone data from those days. Every carrier, T-Mobile, whatever, all of them, right? Because that's what we do. And so there are questions like, did you do this? Yeah, we did. We did them, all right? There was one provider, I can't remember, and I don't want to speculate who, but there was one provider that the data, I believe, for January 5th and possibly January 6th was corrupt, and they couldn't get it. Yeah, just like those cameras in Epstein's cell. Remember those? They just went off. Weird time. Massie, what was your reaction when we told you we can't get that data because it's corrupt? He said, oh, great. That's wonderful, right? That really screws up everything because, you have to have all the data. As an investigator, you want all the data. But things happen in investigations, and this happened before with bank statements and corrupted email servers, so whatever. Things happen, right? It's just like, oh, Jesus, another thing. Oh, I spilled my coffee. No, okay. And the data on one of the most consequential parts of the investigation is now corrupted. Mr. Massie says, in an investigation this important, has it ever happened with a telecom provider in your experience like this? He says, I don't know, like this? Well, for any of the ones you covered, like any other telecom providers just have corrupted data. Well, this is the highest profile investigation I would have done. I've had corrupted data before in other cases and stuff like that. And subscriber information, sure. I don't put any thought that there was any reason for the data to be corrupted. I really don't. I think it was just happenstance. These are your federal FBI officials. No, I don't know why. They just take it. Oh, it's corrupted. It's got the key bit of evidence that we need. Well, I guess that's a day. Okay, honey, I'm coming home early tonight. Nothing else to think about. He said, I figure out who this was. He says, it just sucks for everyone. It just sucks, man. Sucks. Don't have the data. Yeah, it does suck, doesn't it? Massie says, okay, I think you earlier, and I don't want to mischaracterize this, so I'm going to give you another chance. When I asked about the quality of the DNC cameras, yeah, to me, they don't seem as good as your average gas station. And given that Watergate and things like that have happened here, I would expect a little bit more in quality. Is it fair to say that they are lower quality than you would expect? He says, yeah, well, for this day and age, but I believe what my people, because we discussed that, right? My agents, they said the camera system was not good. And it's just unfortunate. Again, another unfortunate thing. There wasn't a lot of video around there. People surmise and suspect, well, there's all this video all over the country, but it's just not true. Ring cameras, all that stuff, if you look at it, and I've talked to people about this because we've gotten the bash, and I don't like the Bureau being bashed for stuff that we've looked at, or you didn't look at. We've gone through neighborhood searches. We've asked everyone for their Ring camera. Not everyone subscribes, and so we don't have everything. If you look at the row houses, they're pretty far off the street. They're not going to capture that movement. Massie says, yeah, okay, right. And so there's a lot of that. So the DNC we were flabbergasted by the fact that they don't have good video. But again, something you got to ask them. I think they've upgraded their systems now. Now, what was the chain of custody of that video? So the surveillance footage that was like cut in half in frame rate. Are you sure that that video didn't get compressed or degraded? Did it go through a contractor between the DNC and the FBI? Did you guys hire outside contractors? No, we don't. If we're getting video evidence and we don't hire outside contractors, we would get it directly from the DNC, but I can't opine on that because I don't know what the procedures are that my analysts follow. Now, I think you agreed earlier that two people who found the pipe bombs would naturally be suspects. Is that true? That they found the pipe bombs naturally would be suspects, right? Well, yeah. I think in any investigation, if the person that's finding the evidence there could possibly be a suspect, then you kind of rule them out, right? By talking to them and getting evidence. So I would suspect that my agents would have ran that to the ground and ruled them out. Massie says, but the person who found, you either haven't identified the person who found the second bomb or did you? So I honestly, sir, I don't know the granularity of everything. It's a whole host of stuff that's going on. And as the senior leader, I'm getting briefed on things. I'm not the one who is ultimately reviewing the footage. It never came up. Massie says, well, all right, look, given that, a 1-hour kitchen timer can't detonate a bomb 17 hours later, it seems likely that these were meant to be found the day of. And one of these was found. We do know who found it. You don't, but I do. Her name is Carlin Younger. Do you know how she was ruled out as a suspect or an unwitting accomplice to somebody? I don't know. Again, it would be in the case file. The Bureau should be able to give you those answers. Now, here's my final question. Who is the person who would know the answer to these questions at the FBI? The case agents would. Honestly, did they work for you? Yeah. What were their names? What were the names of the people who worked for you? I don't recall at this point because this guy is so stinking dumb, he doesn't even know his employees. It's just names sometimes escape me. So they put him in charge of an FBI field office. Guy's like, gosh, I know the suspect, but names escape me, so I'll just go home and have my frozen dinner. Was there a supervisor between you and them? Yes, there were several supervisors between them. So can you give us their names? And Stephen says, could you just find out those? I don't want to put people on the spot and stuff like that. I really don't. Could you just find out from the Bureau? Because it's just like, he's like, I don't want to say anybody's name because you're going to go and talk to them. So he doesn't even want to cooperate with this. This is a weird one, man. He's like grasping around. I don't want to out them. I don't want to tell you who worked for me. Can you just go look at our flow chart? Will you just man up, dude? If you did nothing wrong, just say, yeah. Hey, this guy, John and Bill and Mark and Joe and Larry, they're all here. Go talk to them. We're all doing our jobs. Not even a big deal. And so they've got the name of the first person who popped in. And here's the last two parts of the interview. So question for Stephen. And then, of course, lineage would be underneath that, your assistant, right? Here's Massie back down here. There were branches, different investigations. Okay, Massie. I think I need to have a meeting with Legislative Affairs and share some of this video of what appears to be the second bomb being found by somebody at the DNC. Steve says, well, you know, a hoodie wasn't uncommon back then. Remember that, right? Right. So everyone was hoodied up and masked up. And so that's why a lot of the questions we're getting was like, how can you find out what this person's gender is? It's like, my God, they're in a hoodie, gloves, and mask. That was not out of the ordinary. And we talked to a lot of people who saw that video, like the person walking the dog. I think there was a person walking the baby and all that stuff. Not walking the baby, but, you know, walking the carriage, you know. So a lot of speculation out there about what the Bureau did do. We did a lot of that, right? And a lot of those leads didn't amount to anything because they didn't see anything out of the ordinary. You can't believe that they didn't because you were taking that from hindsight, you know, armchair quarterbacking, Monday morning quarterbacking that. But back then, you got to realize it was COVID. You know, everyone was hoodied up and masked up. But today, if you see somebody in a hoodie, like I saw a couple, you know, days ago, in a mask, that's a suspect now, right? Right. And I'm like, I'm staying away from that person in the city. So Massie says, thank you. Okay, don't need to get into that. Jordan says, did you know if the prosecutors going back to Mar-a-Lago, do you know if those prosecutors have now moved this investigation and are working with you to the special counsel's investigation? My understanding is that I was told Jay moved over under Jack Smith. That's what I was told. Jay Bratt. What about Olson and Toscas? Mr. Olson's the AAG, top guy for national security. And they say, we understand. So now these are transcribed interviews. That's it from Massie. He says that these are not ordinarily released to the public, not always. And thank you to Chairman Jordan for releasing that. So here is Massie, and he is now grilling the ATF over these. I got several clips from him. Let's take a look at this first one from Thomas Massie, who is going to reveal in this testimony what's going on.
The bump stock regulation was in response to a shooting in Las Vegas. Do you have any information at all that might lead you to believe there were actually NFA weapons in Las Vegas? In other words, guns that have been converted to machine gun fire or unregistered machine guns in addition or instead of the bump stocks?
I am not privy to the details of the investigation, so I do not have any information about the details of that.
Who's in possession of those firearms?
I don't know who's in possession of those firearms.
We'd like to know that. Also, I see that you're cooperating with the FBI, the ATF is, on the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. What can you tell us about how that's going?
Obviously, that's a significant matter. It is an ongoing criminal investigation, and so I'm not going to comment on an ongoing criminal investigation.
Were those pipe bombs operable?
Again,
the ATF is the expert.
Again, it's an ongoing criminal investigation, and under long-standing policy, I cannot comment.
And we've just had a whole committee for 2 years that investigated ongoing investigations, so I'm not accepting that answer from you. We need to know these things. Do you know how the pipe bomb was discovered at the DNC? We've been told how it was discovered at the RNC, and according to a press release from the FBI, you're working with them on this investigation.
Respectfully, I understand your disagreement, but I cannot comment because it is an ongoing criminal investigation.
Well, I think you can comment.
Okay, so that is just a quick update on Massie talking to the ATF about that. Obviously, they're stonewalling him, but I wanted to reveal this story about who the person who discovered that pipe bomb was, because we saw that in the transcript. And here is this report from our friend Steve Baker, who is doing incredible work on this, also being jerked around by the DNC. Make sure you're following him at TPC4USA on X. Here is what he says. Video surveillance shows Secret Service and DC Metro Police finish their lunches before discovering and acting on the pipe bomb. But this is what Blaze can now confirm. And this is, I think, has been corroborated by other people. Now reveal that the person who discovered the pipe bomb at the DNC headquarters was a U.S. Capitol Police plainclothes officer. Plainclothes officer. Multiple congressional staffers familiar with the investigation confirmed to Blaze that despite months of FBI stonewalling about who that guy is, they know who he is. At 1:05 January 6, an unidentified person approached the DC Metro Police vehicle and reportedly informed the officers, "I see a bomb." Wearing dark clothes and a backpack, the individual can be seen in a video posted to Thomas Massie's YouTube channel, first speaking to an officer on the driver's side of the patrol car. He then walks around, he leans into chat for several seconds. Again, they say, there is, hang on. Okay, that's the end of the story from The Blaze. But there is more from Thomas Massie. This is what Thomas Massie said. Here is my questioning of FBI director about all this stuff.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman. Director Wray, in light of information provided to us about the FBI's investigation of the January 6th pipe bombs, in an interview with Assistant Director Stephen D'Antuono, Chairman Jordan and I sent you a letter a month ago. Some of the information that we found in that interview was that phone data that could have helped to identify the pipe bomber was corrupted, was unusable. He also wasn't sure who found or how the second bomb was found at the DNC. Do you know how the second bomb was found at the DNC? And when do you plan on answering our letter?
Well, as to the letter, I will work with the department to make sure we can figure out what information we can provide. As you know, this is a very active, ongoing investigation, and there are some restrictions on that, but we will do
we
our
can
best
handle
to
classified
respond.
information, and we fund your department, and so you need to provide that.
It's not, respectfully, it's not an issue of classification. It's an issue of commenting on ongoing criminal investigations, which is something that by longstanding department policy we are restricted in doing. And in fact, the last administration actually strengthened those policies partly because—
That's not our policy, though, and we fund you, so let's move on. Do you know how the second pipe bomb— can you tell us how the second pipe bomb was found at the DNC?
Again, I'm not going to get into that here.
900 days ago is when this happened, and you said you had total confidence we'd apprehend the subject. We've found video that looks like somebody, a passerby, miraculously found this pipe bomb at the DNC and then notified the police. Miraculously, I say, because it was specifically the precise time to cause the maximum distraction from the events going on at the Capitol. Can you show this video that we have, please? I'd like to know if the director has seen this. This is somebody with a mask on, wearing a hat. They're walking in front of the DNC, which is out of the view on the right-hand side. You'll see him come into view. He goes to one police car. He goes to another police car. He's holding a backpack. He's got a mask on. He's talking to the police. And within a minute, they start scrambling. You'll see the camera turn to the pipe bomb, the location of the pipe bomb. By the way, that's, I believe, the Metro police are now getting out of their car, and that's Vice President-elect's detail in the black SUV, I believe.
Kamala's car, and the pipe bomb, the bench is right over here above my head on your screen. The bench was there. That's where the pipe bomb was thrown in the bushes there. So this guy walks right by that. Oh, a pipe bomb, weird. Then goes and tells those other two cars. That turns out that's a Capitol Hill police officer in plain clothes.
Parked about 30 feet from the pipe bomb, eating lunch. Okay, now we go over to the location of the pipe bomb. The cameras are scrambling. It appears to me that that's not a coincidence, that the person with the backpack who walked by that bench and then went up to the police and the detail didn't do that accidentally. They had a purpose in mind, and that what transpired after that was the result of information that person gave to them. If that person found the pipe bomb, would they be a suspect?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate about specific individuals. I will tell you that we have done thousands of interviews, reviewed something like 40,000 video files, of which this is one, assessed 500-something tips.
Have you interviewed that person?
Devices. We have conducted all logical investigative steps and interviewed all logical individuals at this point.
Then it's 900 days. You need to tell us what you found, because we're finding stuff you haven't released into the public.
And that was a Capitol Hill police officer, according to The Blaze and others. And so we got one final clip from Thomas Massie. Here is where he's talking about, here's the video that they discovered. And so this is the full video, I think, from his YouTube channel. And you can watch it. Here we'll just fly through just the bits and pieces of it. But this is the full 7-minute video. And Darren Beatty's been doing a great job on this. You can see that basically the guy walks up right there, kind of comes out of frame. Cops are flying around. And we're going to watch, let me move my fat head out of the way and watch this guy just kind of come into frame here. Actually, that's after the police get out. So I think it was even before that. There it is. So they see that guy walking right up. Who is that guy? That's a Capitol Hill police officer. He found the pipe bomb. And guess what? Stephen D'Antonio said the person who finds it is a pretty key suspect. That's what Thomas Massie's point is. He knows who that person is. We are now learning who this person is. He walks up. Hey, there's something discovered in there. Kamala Harris is at the DNC. She told us she was at the Capitol building. They're all lying. Because obviously, the person who planted the thing might be the person who discovered the thing by the FBI's own admission. So there he is now notifying everybody, and then he just notifies this other card, telling him. And they kept all this from us from a very long time. And there's people walking around, right? If he says, hey, there's a bomb over there, there's a bomb in your car. Like those kids are walking right by it, man. These two people are walking right by the bomb. And he's just going to let him explode? What weird. There's a bomb in the vehicle, right there. So then they finally turn over the camera, and this is where the bomb was. Now they're going to zoom in on it. And there's people standing right there. Nobody's freaked out or anything. Okay, there's people standing literally right there, and they zoom in. They're trying to find this bomb. There's one of those scooters. There's a knocked over cup on the thing, and they're looking around now. And then they zoom back in. There's still a bunch of people who are walking right across the bomb. Now here are the officers now. Oh, wait, there's a bomb? Oh, my gosh. Wow. Here's some more kids walking by. Hopefully it doesn't explode right now and take out the building. Or maybe they knew it wasn't anything. So this guy's going to go over there and look at it. Kamala is evidently in the building. He's walking right by the bomb. The pipe bomb. That was a kitchen timer. They're all aware of it now. So they're not that bright, or they're in on it, as we've always said. So he's walking. Is there a bomb around here? Where's the bomb at? Then this guy goes over there, takes a picture of it. Okay, we've seen that photo. So then he takes, oh, there's the bomb. It's tucked right in there. And he kind of knew right where it was, wasn't it? He kind of walked right up to that. Got it. He flags him. Got the picture. See that? Got the picture. You guys are good. It's not going to explode. It's just some stupid kitchen timer thing. You're good. Okay, got the photo. Now you can leave. Now they go in and they get Kamala. Now there's a little urgency and a little pep in their step. Weird. Weird situation. Isn't that weird? Now this guy's meandering over here. All the pipe bomb. Very curious. And they're just hanging out. Like the bomb is right there. The bomb is literally right there. Okay. Right there in the bushes. Cops are showing up. Now they finally leave. Like 6 minutes later. This video has been like 6 minutes. That's our genius FBI and Secret Service and everybody who's involved. So about what you would expect there. And a great report from Thomas Massie. Again, a good reminder to go check out the Revolver News crew, Darren Beatty, our friend Steve Baker at The Blaze. They're all doing incredible reporting here. Julie Kelly's been exposing the J6 stuff for a long time, and many others. I can't name them all, but great stuff. And the question is, who is this person? Why can't they find him? Weird. Maybe it's because it was them. What I have to think. My friends, we're going to continue to cover this. Thank you for joining us as we do. Don't forget to check out robertgovea.com. The link is down in the description below. We post all of our PDFs on our website. All of our segments are turned into reports that you can read if you want to get a summary of what happened. We also have a newsletter you can sign up for, so all of our segments get bundled up and delivered to your inbox. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends, and now we got one final segment on the day, and this is a big one. Kari Lake exposes an attempted bribery. Let me do that again. Kari Lake exposes an attempt to bribe her to stay out of the 2024 race. We're going to get into this. It's a bombshell story coming from Kari Lake. This was disclosed over to the Daily Mail. We got a full 10 minutes of the audio. There's a 5-minute version that's floating around, but this is the full version of this. And we're going to see what is inside because it's actually quite shocking. Now, it involves, on the other end of the recording, this guy, Jeff DeWitt, Arizona GOP chair, he has resigned, and that came very quickly. And so we're going to go through this, the full audio. But first, let me give you his side of the story so that as we're listening, you can decide whether you believe him or not. He wrote a letter. We're also going to look at the bribery statute in Arizona, and then you can determine yourself whether you think this is a criminal violation or not. But here is what Jeff DeWitt, the former Arizona GOP chair, said. And here is his letter. Looks like this. The statement from chairman of the Arizona GOP, Jeff DeWitt, released January 24th, says the following. In light of the recent revelation that Kari Lake has released what he calls is a selectively edited audio recording of our private conversation, I must clearly address this deceptive tactic. And we're going to listen to 10 minutes so you can be the judge. Now, the recording from over 10 months ago, because Kari Lake is running for Senate, is not only taken out of context, but also undermines the integrity of private discussions that we need for our party to survive. Now, as chairman, my primary duty is to strengthen our party, which often involves challenging dialogues and strategic decisions, which I think is true. You might have two candidates that come up and it's like, look, you guys are both great, but we're going to have to back you. Here's why. Here's something for you to do in the meantime. Here's how you can be useful. A lot of that. Now, these conversations are meant to assess and enhance the viability of our candidates. Sounds reasonable. But the truth is, when I took the helm, our party was in disarray. We were financially unstable, organizationally weak, and lacking in momentum. Now today, we've made significant improvements. We got a new headquarters, legal victories for election integrity, historic fundraising achievements, and so on. Now, contrary to the notion, he says, of me being an enemy of Lake's, this conversation was recorded while I was actually employing Lake in my private company. In fact, for over a year and a half, we had many conversations where I was looking out for her financial interests. The ethical breach in her recording of our conversation, while Lake was my employee, raises serious legal and moral concerns. This act of recording was not just a betrayal of trust, but also a violation of fiduciary responsibilities as an employee. I think this took place in her home, so we'll see. Now, contrary to accusations of bribery, my discussions were transparent and intended to offer perspective and not coercion. Our relationship was based on friendship. The conversation is now being scrutinized. It was an open, unguarded exchange between friends in the living room of her house, which doesn't really seem like an employee, right? So we have a little bit of a discrepancy there. She was my employee and has a fiduciary responsibility, but I was talking to her as a friend in the living room of her house, okay? I genuinely believed I was offering a helpful perspective to someone I considered a friend. Now, Lake has a massive megaphone I can't compete with. I'm just a business and financial guy that got recruited into this unpaid role that demands the amount of time of roughly 2 full-time jobs. I work nights, weekends, holidays, and more are all my work days. My motivation for this position, accepting it, is that I wanted to contribute positively, with the primary focus being on the betterment of Arizona and our nation through the election of competent individuals. Now, while there is much more that I could express, I must refrain from defending myself as it could undermine this objective. Now, since our conversation where I advised Lake to postpone her campaign and aim for the governor's position in 2 years, okay, so don't run for Senate, come back in 2026, run for governor. Ever since I said that, she's been on a mission to destroy me. It was a suggestion made in good faith, believing it could benefit both her future prospects and the party's overall strategy. We don't want you to run for Senate, run for governor in 4 or in 2, right? Now, don't run this cycle, run the next one. The release of our conversation by Lake confirms a disturbing tendency to exploit private interactions for personal gain, and increases concerns about her habit of secretly reporting conversations. Now, this is obviously concerned given how much interaction she has with people like Trump. He's protecting Trump now. I question how effective a U.S. senator can be when they cannot be trusted to engage in private conversations. Now, he says, I said things I regret, but I realized when hearing Lake's recording that I was set up. I believe she orchestrated this entire situation to get control over the state party. And it's obvious from the recording that she crafted her performance responses with knowledge that she was recording it, which I think is true. I think she knew she was recording it, obviously, so she was saying things that are going to be recorded, intending to use this recording to portray herself as a hero in her own story. Well, she was rejecting what some people are calling a bribe. Now, this morning, he says, I was determined to fight for my position, but a few hours ago, I received an ultimatum from Kari Lake's team. They said, resign today or face the release of a new, more damaging recording. I'm truly unsure of its contents, but considering our numerous open conversations in the past as friends, I've decided not to take the risk. I'm resigning, as Lake has requested, in the hope that she's going to honor her commitment to cease her attacks, allowing me to return to the business sector that I find much more logical and prefer over politics. He says, I'm a proud supporter of Trump. I've worked diligently as the COO and the CFO of his 2016 campaign, served with Trump for 2 years, returned as the COO for 2020. And like many Republicans, I'm eager to see him win back the White House, bring back low inflation, a secure border, economic growth. And this is the I love Trump paragraph. Trump is not only a successful business person, but also a passionate patriot. We have both faced the challenge of dealing with unauthorized recordings. Trump's just like me, a situation no one should endure. Well, I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe the grab him by the purse tape. While I have occasionally critiqued some of his endorsements, my admiration for his character has never faltered. My dedication remains with Arizona Republicans, our commendable election officials, and candidates who champion freedom, as well as my friends in the Trump campaign, so we can reclaim the White House. Saying our party's focus should be integrity, selecting good candidates. We are weakened by internal strife, underhanded tactics. I dedicate countless unpaid hours to this. In my closing, my actions will always reflect what's best for Arizona Republicans, but this is all a distraction to my mission, and so I am doing as Miss Lake wishes, and I'm stepping down as chairman of the Arizona Republican Party. That is Jeff DeWitt, former Arizona Republican Party chairman, now out. Now, this is what Kari Lake has apparently released. Daily Mail got their hands on it. And here, before we jump into that, is what the Arizona revised statutes say about this. And so the question is this actually bribery? Here's the statute. A person commits bribery of a public servant or a party officer if such person confers or agrees to confer a benefit upon a, quote, public servant or a party officer to influence their vote, or while a public servant or a party officer, if they accept. So if you offer or if you accept something that would be a benefit and it would do something to that person, it would influence their vote, their opinion, their judgment, something. Saying it's no defense that the person is not qualified to act in the desired way. Like maybe you don't have that power to do the thing, but you still do the thing. Or somebody bribes you to do the thing even though you can't do it. That's not a defense to bribery. If you do this, it's a class 4 felony. So a couple things here. Is it corrupt intent? That's a big part of this. Did he have a corrupt intent to bribe her corruptly? Or is this just politics? Just don't run this time. We'll find another place for you. That's a questionable position there. And the other question is whether or not she is a public servant, if that matters or not. And so that is what this, if we look to the definition section of Arizona Revised Statute, it says any officer or employee, whether elected, appointed, or otherwise employed, including a peace officer, or any person participating as an advisor or a consultant. Okay, so Kari Lake was employed for that guy. He was the Arizona GOP person. I don't know in what capacity she was employed. Was she employed as a consultant at his company? Don't know. So maybe she does count as a public servant. Maybe this does count as bribery. Time will tell. Will a prosecutor bring charges? Probably unlikely. But here is the full audio, my friends. Let's get right into it because this is a spicy meatball. This is the Kari Lake audio. Kari Lake, Jeff DeWitt, former Arizona GOP chair, talking election strategy. Here.
Don't tell people.
They're gonna try to have me murdered.
I wouldn't doubt that either. Today's world, man. If that stuff that came out last week is right about the cartel stuff, man. They said the cartel's operating in 50 states right now. Like all 50.
Cartels in 50 states.
So
Nice job.
So what's going on? Who is it? What?
forget the who. Let me just tell you the what. Let's just say there are people calling around saying, gosh, no, they can't read this. Never repeat this. If you say no, don't. If you say, I got offered to buy out.
Yeah.
Don't use it. Because then we lose our ability to get things done in the future.
Here's my problem. Rather than just say, let's work with her, she's a great candidate. Because they don't own me. And it pisses me off.
Yeah, it's not about ownership.
It's about control.
I don't know it's about control. It's about being on the team. I guess
That's
They want to be on the team.
that's control.
they want you to be on their team.
Yeah.
But
Just
they're,
team. You know?
but if they're pushing a globalist agenda, I can't do that.
Whose team?
So what do they want? What do they want me to do?
You want to stay out for 2 years. But I'll tell you what I can offer you.
It's an offer.
But I said you can do whatever you want. It's talking head, this and that. So
Talking head
the ask
on
of me
TV.
was, it's kind of funny. So the ask I got today from back east was,
Back east.
is there any companies out there or something that could just put her on the payroll and give her to keep her out? And I said, well, what do you want to do? Whatever we need to do.
This is about defeating Trump. And I think that's a bad thing for our country. DeSantis is not America first. This is about the final death blow to Trump. And I don't think that's good for our country.
And you know I love Trump. I love Trump.
It's not good for our country, Jeff.
It's not, but at the same time, I'm not even sure Trump can win again. I don't know that he can win again. I think what it really comes down to for a lot of people,
So make your
it's
bets
not really about
now.
like, control or agenda, it's just about the ability to raise money to win. You know, if you really want to know, all of politics boils down to money, I think. And even on their end, like, what makes them the most money?
Right.
I know. All these consultants don't want
They're
their
moving pieces
payday.
around so they can get paid.
And I don't want to make a deal with these kind of people. This is a hill worth dying on. I'm not, if they're going to steal the election to make me and our movement go away, I'm not letting them do that. I owe it to the people of Arizona
Or
to carry their torch and their voice.
you don't go away, but you pause.
This is the battles right now, Jeff.
And you fill your coffers.
No, the battle is right now. The battle is right now, and we don't have time to pause on this battlefield.
You're not. You can't scratch their back. It's not afraid of you.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to offer them. And they're sitting around people that have something to offer them. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a back scratching club. That's all DC is. It's a big back scratching club. You're in no position to scratch anybody's back, and you've already made it known that if you get there, you're not going to scratch anybody's back. I don't scratch people's back. You know, I've been on the outs with a lot of people for a long time because I don't scratch backs. You know, where are we in 2 years if they steal the election again?
Listen to
We're
what you're
trying.
saying. Why don't we do something about it?
Exactly
So
right.
that we the people can pick our...
What can we do?
I'm not willing to accept that. And I'm going to be the biggest pain in these people's... Go back and tell them that. I'm running, and I'm going to be the biggest pain in their...
And I'm willing to tell them that.
Good.
And they're going to have to kill me to stop me.
I know, look. And
You don't have to tell them that, but I don't think they will, but
Nah, I don't think that's the way they are.
I don't think that's the way they are.
either they
That's
come
good.
around and try to work with me, or I'm
What
just
would that
gonna,
entail?
that would entail not
All of
telling,
them-
layman's telling me, you gotta distance yourself from Trump. No, you distance yourself from DeSantis.
He's all butthurt about that.
But what I'm saying is, don't tell people that. I'm with Trump, okay? I want to work for
I
the
love
betterment of Arizona. I'm not going to let these people back in DC tell me not to run.
I'm telling you, that's what
I'm not going to pause for 2 years. The battle is now. I'm offended by whoever these people are that they're trying to buy me out of.
Exactly right.
You should be honored.
I'm offended that there's people back there who just don't give about our country.
Do you understand though? You should be honored. That means they know how powerful you are.
Well, I can
So
tell
you
them
If you weren't
that.
powerful, they wouldn't want
Getting
to have
bought
this
out.
conversation,
Wild.
Yeah,
right? You should be. Very few people get this.
I know. I'm pissed that they don't care more about our country. It's all about the mighty dollar to them. And that's offensive.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
They want to get Trump so bad. They want him out so
It's not about
bad.
Trump. This isn't about Trump. It's about you. It's not about Trump. It
Oh,
really is. It's about you. It's not about Trump. Some people that are in on this, I know.
Listen, I can win. Why don't you go back and tell them that I can win? And why don't they get behind me?
I see these things through a different lens. It's very personal to you. This was you. It was your name on the ballot. And I get that. And it's a very personal thing.
Well, I have a appointment coming up, and I have to work on my book.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not good. I appreciate their concern.
Just to say, is there a number at which
I can be bought.
not people,
That's what it's about.
you can take a pause for a couple of years?
No.
And then go right back to what you're doing.
No. 10 million, 20 million, 30, no. A billion, no. This is not about money. This is about our country. I think it's disturbing that they would even, that anybody would think this is.
No, to be fair, even me, I'll say this. I want a fresh face right now for the reason that I've never seen anyone, I can't think of a single person in a federal race who's lost, ran in and won. I can't think of it. If you can think of it, let me know.
I am not going to let these people who hate our country tell me not to run. You should call them and tell them to get behind me.
I mean,
I can
would say
win, and they
those
should
words.
get behind me.
I will happily say those words.
Yeah.
Do you think my words will carry any weight? No.
Okay, well, did you think you would come in here and that I would be bought?
It's not being bought.
Yes, it is.
It's, I think,
It is being bought. They are trying to buy me out of running. And it's actually, I mean, all right, I'm flattered. I'm offended. I'm
What I
offended for our
think-
country.
what I
We have
think is
people like
this.
this who live here.
What I think is this, is it can give you an incredible opportunity to have a bigger voice to fight for stuff than you currently do.
Yeah.
Not as big as a senator.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to deal with people like this. These people are un-American, and I think they're unethical, and I would be absolutely immoral if I did that.
Again,
That's immoral. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror if I, you know.
it's very powerful people that are willing to, they really want someone different. They want new names, whatever it is.
So they want Jim Lehman, that's a new name?
No, actually, that's not even, that's a possibility, but they're even asking me like,
I know, they've got all these new names, and I'm gonna beat each and every one of them. Sorry, Jeff, take it back to them.
oh,
I gotta get working.
I know you
I
do.
love you, but I gotta get working.
all right, I appreciate it.
I mean, I'm just, can't believe this.
Hey, again, be honored. Instead of them just them working to beat you, they're trying to
This is about getting Trump out.
Nah,
Yeah, it is.
Trump never came once.
What's about DeSantis, getting DeSantis in? Getting DeSantis is getting Trump out.
You're reading too deep into it.
Well, let's see what happens. Maybe my case will go through. Maybe they'll do the right thing.
I hope so.
I do too. That's my first goal. But they can't have me in the governor's office, because then we're gonna root out some of this corruption. But again, it's like, you know what it is? The people don't get to choose their elected officials unless they're pre-approved by the swamp. And the swamp doesn't pre-approve of me.
You need a strong party to help.
I think you should go public with this and then say, hey,
no.
these people don't want to, they don't want,
And then I turn my key in my car and I just,
Wild.
I like my
Guy said, I turn my key into my car. If I go public with this, it's going to explode.
tell them I'm not flattered. I'm offended that
Don't
they,
tell anybody we had this conversation.
I'm offended that they don't care about our country more.
I actually wish you'd just give me a counter offer this big. Give me a counter.
I can't be bought.
Come on.
I can't.
All right, I'll...
Okay, bye-bye.
Wild exchange. So it is interesting. To me, it did feel like Kari Lake was a little bit performative there. You know, like, is this, you know, how their normal conversations are? It felt like she knew she was recording. I can't believe he didn't know she was recording, or he wasn't wise about that. But it is nonetheless, I mean, the bravado on this guy, the bravado of him to just, I guess, tell it like it is. I imagine that this is probably a conversation that happens regularly. But the fact that somebody would say, we're just going to give you a job to keep you out of the next in line for the Senate, and the fact that there are evidently a bunch of other recordings of this, and she's got them in her back pocket that she's about to disclose, leads me to believe that he talked like this all the time, you know, and he just kind of got carried away with this conversation. I mean, to talk about your car exploding if you don't do what these people do, that is a whole different level. I mean, that's almost like an implied threat. Now, Kari Lake didn't sound like she took it like that, but my goodness. So absolutely shocking audio. Now, he has resigned. My understanding is Kari Lake is going to be talking about all of this evening, I think it is. So Kari Lake is hosting, I think on Rumble, an event. Yeah, she is tonight in about 40 minutes from this time. Says, I'm getting a lot of questions about the bribery scandal and corruption. I've decided to go live on Rumble tonight, 8 Eastern time, 6 o'clock AZ time. That's tonight to answer our questions. She's saying, I hope that you'll join me. And so I hope you do too. So if we can get to the bottom of what's happening in Arizona. And yeah, very interesting questions about timing. Why was this video released right now? Might be because we're in the middle of a vice presidential battle. We noticed that both sides of this conversation, they're both talking about Trump, right? Kari Lake's talking about Trump in the recording. DeWitt's talking about Trump. There's been a lot of conversation about Trump picking Vivek or something. So if you wanted to be cynical about this, maybe you'd say, well, Kari Lake's trying to cause some attention, maybe get into the Trump good graces or something like that. Or maybe it's just an election season and we're getting much closer to the time when it's going to be to vote for these individuals. And Kari Lake is exposing a lot of the backroom deals, a lot of the swamp behavior that we talk all the time about. And it makes me wonder how many other good candidates are being dissuaded from jumping in. Like, hey, we'll give you $1 million a year. Go over here, go talk about whatever the hell you want. We don't care. As long as we get our guy in, because then our guy is going to make us $10 million a year. So we'll pay your $1 million to make $9 million. This is just a smart investment. And if Kari Lake is not going to be bought, who is the next person they go down to? So let's say, for example, this person calls Steve DeWitt, and they say, hey, to DeWitt, is Kari Lake going to go? Oh, she's not going to take our voluntary offer? Okay, great. What's going to happen to the next, who's the next phone call? Who's the next person that gets the call? I don't know. Is it somebody who runs the elections? Is it the Secretary of State? Hey, you know, we got a problem with this. We're going to do this for you. We need you to move these things around, whatever. And I'm not saying like they call the Secretary of State and say, can you rig the election? But they're moving a bunch of other pieces around, right? They call the top candidate, and when she says no, okay. Do you think that they're done? Do you think that they just go, oh man, okay, Kari Lake's going to run. I guess that that's the end of that one. Of course not. They call the next people and the next people, and their operation is to make sure she doesn't win, and they're still going to get their guy installed in anyways. And of course, we saw that happen in 2022 here. Kari Lake, the day of election voting, huge swaths of the entire state of Arizona were disenfranchised on election day when people were going to go vote for her. So The pattern is being exposed. I think the timing is, very nice. And it is going to be interesting to see what the GOP does. Trump's coming to Arizona, I think, Friday. And so we'll see if there's any fallout on this. But an explosive audio recording. I think that largely, this is probably how politics is done. I think it's disgusting, but it's probably a conversation that's a little bit more common than we would let on to. And so I'm grateful to Kari Lake for letting us peer inside, see how the mechanics actually work. I don't like to just default and say, well, it's just politics. That's not how politics is supposed to be. Maybe it's dirty, maybe it's gross and disgusting, it is. But we should demand better from our people in charge. And we've got elections to win. We trust our AZ GOP chair people. We want them to do the work and, be good fighters and all this stuff, not just say this election's going to be tough and maybe Trump's going to lose anyways, so we should play a losing hand. It's like you're preparing to lose. Trump might lose. Quit your whining and make sure he doesn't deliver Arizona by 100,000 votes. But no, they'd rather convince Kari Lake not to run. All right, so we'll see where this goes, my friends. Kari Lake is going to answer some questions about it. We're going to keep following this story. We're in Arizona. If the GOP is already planning to lose in 2024, we're in big trouble. Arizona is a swing state. We have to win this state. We can't have leaders on top who are just like, well, he might lose anyway, and so we need to plan for some contingencies. No, thanks. We're going to win Arizona, and we're going to keep this train on the tracks. And so, shout out to Kari Lake for exposing this nefariousness within our gutters of our government and our politics. We're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. If you want to grab the PDF, sign up for the newsletter, check out the robertgovea.com website. The link is down in the description below. We also have a great shop there where you can grab some Watcher gear, grab the new hat, support the show, and look amazing while you do it. We'll see you back there at robertgovea.com and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is some good stuff. My goodness, we had some good coverage today. Kari Lake exposing bribery allegations. Thomas Massie blowing the lid on the J6 pipe bomber. And Trump filing a highly redacted motion that shows collusion between the White House and basically the rest of the government to try to take him out. And so now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We had some very nice donos in the house. General Kale says Washington kept losing to the British, lost at the Alamo too. Pearl Harbor was a big L. First go at the Germans was the same. What make America great is taking the L and coming back to KO you. From General Kale. Very interesting comment, General Kale. Thanks for being here and sending that one in. All right, we got this one from Rosie Posey's in the house. What's up, Rosie? Says DeWitt said he is resigning because Lake has even more damaging audio, and we'll see what those are. See if we get those revealed at any moment. Thank you, Rosie. We got this one from Kit. Says, awesome, perfect timing, right at the tip end of the Greens ad. Hey, love the content. Happy New Year. May your new adventures prove prosperous. Thank you, Kit. Kit saying he joined us right as we were finishing Field of Greens, meaning he apparently didn't even need to hear the promo because he already knows to go to fieldofgreens.com and use code Robert to check out to save 15% on your Field of Greens order. Boom. Good to see you, Kit. We got MAGA Hat sharing this one. And this looks like an article about how to stop Trump and organic movements, non-organic movements called like Primary Pivot that are helping you how to vote to stop Trump. Very nice. Alaska Patriot, welcome as our newest supporter. Alaska Patriot in the house. Welcome aboard. We got our newest membos. CGI Joe bringing in. War Mode engaged. Kyle L. The Rooster. Dead Fish Cheese Spread. RAS Illusion. Richard Coffee. We got Holly K. Salties here. Judy O. And Texas Guitar Gal. All coming in courtesy of CGI Joe. And our YouTube membos, don't forget to grab the Telegram link. It is in the community tab section on YouTube, and you can navigate down, grab the members only link. We'll see you there on the after party. We got this one from G-Gum. What's up, G-Gum? Says, watching the Watchers is the best. Rob, the content he covers, the guests, the whole Watching the Watchers family. Can't wait for the time change so I can catch more live streams. Ciao. And have a great day, all. From Jigam Geegum in the house. Jigam, thank you for that. And we're grateful to have you as our meme smith extraordinaire. This is what Jigam has created for our community. And you can see a bunch of familiar faces on here from other members of the community. There's yours truly. There's my brother Jojo. We got Mama G in the house. We got all of our friends here. We got even puppies on the lovely image, and a lion. Ooh, yeah, a lion in the moon. Jigam Geegum. Thank you for that. Super fun. Thanks for sending that in. And that's my bro, Eric, by the way. May he rest in peace. That's my bro, Eric, if you missed him. Come on. Scroll in, Rob. Act like you know what you're doing. There's my bro. Shout out to Eric. Thank you, Jigam, for sending that one in. Beautiful stuff. We got Sherry. It's us, my friends. That's us. That's the Watcher fam. We're saving America. Get in this boat. We got a country to save. Let's go. Sherry's here. Says, you can see what went on. They weren't sure that their cheerleaders were going to get the crowd whipped up enough to act bad. So they had these bombs planted as a plan B to show that Trump ordered something to stop the passing of power to Biden. Right. If they couldn't instigate the J6, they were going to, instigate the pipe bomb. Oh, there's bombs here. Knox says, happy Wednesday, all. Our government needs better video providers. This has been happening since 9/11. And yeah, the 9/11 tale of the Pentagon's disabled security cameras. Yeah, remember the Pentagon video? It's like somebody recorded that with a potato. It's like 3 frames. It's like plane, second frame, explosion. You're like, wow, great job, the Pentagon. The world's defense agency. Great. Here, CF Rob says, Mr. Former FBI intelligence official, is this your name and signature on this letter, which states that Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? From Massie. Says, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. Thanks, guys. Good to see you, Rob. Fred says, D'Antonio was also in charge of the Whitmer plot, then D.C. He might just be a useful idiot because he doesn't remember anything. A boy misunderstood a membo for 7 months. What's up? Says, Loomer just exposed Fannie paying for Wade's divorce. Ooh, that sounds juicy. We got a Fannie segment coming up. I can feel it. What's up, a boy misunderstood? Thanks for being a membo for 7 months. That's 2 months away from a baby. We got Melissa's here. Welcome, Melissa. Melissa C is our newest supporter. Welcome aboard, Melissa. Rob says, is this a bomb squad? Anyone know who is controlling this panning and zooming of the video camera that just happens to be pointed towards the DNC? Maybe Nancy Pelosi's other daughter? Good question, Rob. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know who was recording it, if it was just like a police vehicle or something. Hey, what's up? NY says, the whole taped conversation relates to her running. Does he want to say that that's part of her employment? What a dumb move on him. Did a lawyer write that statement? Yeah, I don't know. Kind of a contradictory statement there. 1917 says, did that Cap Police have camera on his vest? Probably not if he was undercover. I wouldn't imagine that he did. This one from Rocky says, Rob, that Lake audio made my day or week, maybe even month. She is such the real deal. It's almost too hard to believe. Well, she stood firm on that. And I think a lot of people would not. A lot of people would want to know, well, who's saying what? And what can I get? What's the next line for me? No, I don't care if it's $1 billion. I believe her. I think she wants to run and win. And she can't be bought. So it's very refreshing. This old guy says the conversation with Kari Lake was a glimpse into the nasty underbelly of politics in this country. Yeah, and I agree with that. I was trying to listen to it to give him the benefit of the doubt, to say sometimes these are nasty conversations. And I practice in criminal law. Sometimes you have nasty conversations because you're talking about nasty things and what side's going to do what and all this stuff, but it's not unethical. It's not, you never would shatter your integrity to do that. Like you can have very nasty and gross conversations without being lacking in integrity. Like, look, this is just how this is going to go. But what I heard was not really that. What I heard, it felt dirty and gross to me. Like he wasn't doing it, but it also was, he was doing it. So, all right. Rosie says, with regard to Kari, who's trying to bribe her? Who are they specifically? We need names. I'm with you on that. I'd like to know who they were. Tony Hay says, you should stream Governor Lake tonight. We're going to call it a night here, Tony, but she'll be streaming it on Rumble. And Knox says, I hope Quarter Native is doing okay. So sorry about your pup. I don't even know what that's about. Quarter Native, we hope you're doing okay too. And we're sending good love and energy to you and your family and your pup. Dolphin Fan is the man, bringing in 5 new membos. Land That I Love. CD's here. Your boy, Roy Boy, is here. Poem P and Lao Zhu came in, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man in the house. Another one from Tony Hay, bringing in Denzel. Oh my gosh. Sketch Therapy, Dr. No Name, Don D, and Veg Bloom, all coming in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets, our 5 newest membos. Rob says, MTG said that someone tried to bribe her at one point. She said, no, Kari Lake and Marjorie are 2 spicy women. I have to watch Kari Lake's live. She has a Rumble channel? I think so. That's what she said. James, welcome aboard, James. Welcome to our member-only community. And Tony Hayes bringing some 5 new membos as well. Amiana L, Space Baby, Ann B, Villainy Fortitude, and FSU Mike, all coming in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. And our newest membos, grab the Telegram link and the community section on YouTube, and we'll see you there in our members only after party. Let's say hello to our friends on X very quickly before we wrap it up on the day. We got 33 viewers on X, man. 33 viewers. Woo! That's what we're talking about. We like to see our friends on X. Danny says, Kari for VP. Goofy for Jesus says, we want Jeff DeWitt deposed. Brian says, 2602 covers people in office, not private citizens considering a candidacy. Well, I did say that, except the employment provision, and she was employed maybe as a consultant. I don't know. Melissa's here, says, hello from the free state of Texas. TK's here. Thank you for the nice compliment. And yeah, integrity's not for sale. You got the wrong gal, says Jay Howard. Polly's in the house. Jeffersonian's in the house. We got George wants better playlists on the channel, which is something we can work on. And so that, my friends, are great comments from our friends on the X platform. But we are done for the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. Before we do, we want to say thanks to our mods and our meme smiths, including Vientikiz Prime, who's clipping for us, along with John McGarvey. Shout out to K-Bean, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen in the house, Janik909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, modding down the fort for us. Shout outs to Geegum Geegum, our meme smith, Nathan, N810, and Sleepy Dogley for modding down the fort for us and memeing down the place. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. We got a few minutes left to debrief over on locals. Come and check us out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to see you there. But if we don't, well, we're going to be back here tomorrow, and we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.